We here at the First to Last Nerdum are back with another episode of our comic focused deep dive of Flipping the Pages with ML and Tom, the show where we close the streaming apps, crack open a collected edition, and talk about the stories that shaped the medium we love. Each episode, we spotlight a comic run or graphic novel, break down the creative team, the themes, the artwork, and decide whether it's essential reading or just an interesting chapter in comic history. This week, we're diving into one of Marvel's most influential modern runs, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, written by Ed Brubaker. This is a storyline that didn't just redefine Steve Rogers for the 21st century. It resurrected Bucky Barnes and transformed him into one of Marvel's most compelling tragic anti-heroes, blending superhero action with Cold War paranoia and spy thriller tension. Brubaker's run grounded Captain America in conspiracy, betrayal, and lingering ghost of history. We'll be talking about how this story balances patriotism and skepticism, how it reshaped Captain America's mythos, the impacts of Steve Eptington's moody cinematic artwork, and why the Winter Soldiers became such a cornerstone for both comics and Marvel's cinematic universe. So grab the trade, turn the page, and prepare for a story about legacy, loyalty, and the cost of remembering. This is Flipping the Pages with ML and Tom right here on the First Last Nerdum. And I'm this uh, before mentioned Tom, and I'm here with ML, stumbling along with my words here. But we're going to be talking about the Winter Soldier. And I've got my copy right here with me. I did the Epic collection version because they did recently come out with I think you have the link for the Marvel Compact,
I
the
do.
more affordable version, which is about 15 bucks before any discounts you might get. And it's in comic book stores and at your local Amazon or Barnes and Nobles. Um, and it's form it's kind of competing with anime or with the manga. It's kind of a smaller size. It's not your typical sized comic book.
Yeah, I was going to say, I apologize. I had Safari. I was using that to display. Just took a shit on me. So I had to quickly open up a pre-made link set that I knew was going to work. But yeah, this one, again, I love it when we can cover these comic series and really get into it. For this particular one, now I have the Barnes and Noble up and
Mhm.
ebook paperback. You can and believe it. This is readily available, just like the DC
Mhm.
version of it is,
Yeah.
or the DC for their DC stuff, but Marvel for their Marvel stuff. I ended up reading this one in the Kindle or whatever. In the artwork was very good, and of course I have a couple different readers or
Mhm.
whatever. But it was really fun to read, and this one was. I had not read this one. I had always kind of like trimmed around the edges or had read derivative stories or kind of rehashes or refreshes that maybe didn't have the punch of the original,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
because there's always permutations of these damn things. But this one was the Ed Brubaker, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it came out in what was it in the early mid
Like 2005,
2000s.
something,
The
2006.
run went 2005 to 2006. Yeah, I was into comic books at the time. I've been in and out of comic books for decades now. But I was never really into Captain America. I was always into the kind of underdog superheroes like X-Men. They were always on the run. I always loved Spider-Man. I was into Doom Patrol. The more moodier superheroes like Batman. I was always kind of fascinated by the anti-hero or the darker superheroes. And so Superman and Captain America, I was never into rah rah patriotism, so
Right.
they were never really like my focus. So, but I knew there was probably something with the story because back in during the 2000s, um I was living in St. Louis, and I wasn't actually going to comic book stores. I originally came from Arkansas, and I'm back in Arkansas. So when I was in St. Louis, I had my local Arkansas comic book guy collect my comics and send them once a month to me, so I'd
That's
read them.
awesome.
So I was never really there in the comic, but you kind of miss out on the when you're shopping around in a comic book store. You inevitably hear sort of the talk. If there's like a big buzz about a comic book, you would hear it going on at the comic book shop. So I wasn't really there when the big buzz about this was going on, and also it leads into Civil War, the other big Captain America big event that came on. In the first inkling I really had of that, I was going to a movie. I forget what nerdy movie it was, but these two guys were sitting behind me, and they were having this big conversation about Captain America and Civil War. And this is before Marvel blew up, before DC blew up, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So hearing a couple of guys out in the wild talking about a comic book was kind of unheard of at the time, and so I was like, oh, so there's something going on with Captain America. That sounds interesting. But it wasn't until like you know the past few years I've really gotten into Ed Brubaker's crime comic books, his kind of film noir, sort of pulpy stuff, and then I realized, oh well, Ed Brubaker wrote The Winter Soldier, and we just kind of came off of Catwoman, his run on Catwoman that we read for Flipping the Pages, which should be out probably before this one.
Yep.
But yeah, it's so I really wanted to revisit this, and so when I proposed it to Mike, he was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, this is not one of the greatest. This is the definitive greatest Captain America story ever told. I would
Mhm.
I would dare to say, and there would be some that would agree with me. And I don't. There are absolutely different, completely different versions, but this one was really enjoyable. I actually reread some parts, and I even extended it out and kind of like went and took a little bit of a stroll through as different Captain America titles during the era that were a little bit off, not quite on the main storyline, but it was really
Yeah.
awesome. But you have Steve Rogers. This is the quintessential one. He's a man at a time. He's trying to find his place. Not unlike the movie, but the movie kind of went in a different direction, and it was really based off of a different um, universe than that. The Ultimate Universe is, but neither here nor there. And of course, they beg, borrow, and steal from different storylines when they want to,
Mhm.
obviously, and they have liberally. But you also have Bucky Barnes, Nick Fury, all of the classic ones.
The
Sharon
original Nick
Carter,
Fury, yeah.
yeah, the Red
Yeah.
Skull, Jeremy. That the Red Skull is just, uh,
Mhm.
you know, one that you kind of lose sight of a little bit. But
Yeah, he never gets the maybe the respect, maybe not the correct word for it, but the gravitas that he needs for these stories. But yeah, he's a really good villain actually. Within these pages, it really pulls it out. Now, I think it's kind of interesting because this is about bringing Bucky Barnes back to life. He's from the original run of Captain America, and then when Marvel and Stan Lee was bringing him back, resurrecting him, I guess he kind of had a thing against sidekicks, so he didn't want to bring back Bucky Barnes. So there's not a so when they brought back Captain America, there is no issue where Bucky Barnes dies. It's all off camera, and it's kind of referenced, but there's not an issue where Bucky Barnes dies. His retelling and how he dies keeps getting retold, but yeah, there's not that singular issue. And when Ed Brubaker was offered to write Captain America. His favorite character from Captain America was Bucky Barnes. So one of his conditions for writing Captain America was that he wanted to bring back Bucky Barnes, but Bucky Barnes was one of those characters that Marvel had kind of decided was never coming back.
Right.
Like Gwen Stacy. She's dead for good. But yeah, so they would bring back like clones and people that might have been Bucky Barnes, but turned out
Life model
not to
decoys.
be him. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Ed Brubaker said, "Yeah, I want to bring back Bucky Barnes." And Tom Brevoort at the time was kind of against it, but he wanted he asked Brubaker to write up a document about 13 points of why they should bring back Bucky Barnes. And I think they all kind of fell in love with what Brubaker propositioned, and actually, I think his proposal for bringing Bucky Barnes back is pretty much the story that gets told in the pages of Captain America.
Yeah, no,
So
you're right. Well, and I was going to say, although the movie is the movie version is excellent in and of itself, I love that storyline, and probably a really good reason why I love this this series so well is because of that, because of the movie. That's my favorite Marvel movie that I can always kind of rewatch just about any. Maybe some people there's this Iron Man whatever or who knows whatever. But I was going to say too, when this came out, you were saying before, this was post 9/11, post Ultimates. And I think Demon in the Bottle was not. I can't remember if it was before this or after this, but anyway,
the Iron Man storyline.
yeah,
Oh yeah, that
but,
was way before. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, you had the storylines were getting darker and a lot more, real, a lot more like how the storyline that we got was very, very good. And
Yeah.
with the espionage, that was just like, it's not just an action thing. If it was just an action kind of thing, I don't think it would have been as hard hitting as it was. But because it had that extra, layer there, it helped really. I loved it anyway.
Oh, I'm gonna bring the Tropic Thunder with
Oh,
the tropical 7-Up. So if you know, you know.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, if you have your snack or your cool drink, go ahead and bring it out now and
If
enjoy.
you have a cold drink, go ahead and get a drink. Get a cold drink.
I have a hot take on this week's or one of our weeks of the first last podcasts on weapons. So check that out. I go off on a rant, but yeah. Like I said, I was never really big into Captain America, but yeah, I think Stan Lee always wanted to have sort of like an angle, or all of the heroes had to have sort of like a tragedy or something to kind of build themselves from. And I guess taking away Bucky Barnes and making Captain America displaced in time kind of gives him the tragedy and the mythos, pathos that builds into a Marvel character. So when you bring back Bucky Barnes, you take that away. You take away that angst or anguish in Captain America. So how do you still make him interesting? I think they did a good job because Bucky Barnes, there's not like a big reunion where they give a big hug to each other. It's still a lot of tension between the two characters, and I love the fact that at that time they weren't taking the storyline lightly. Like I said, they put the writer through his paces on why they should do this, and I think it made for a better story. Whereas I think today, unfortunately, a lot of storylines get pushed through just because no one cares, or the quality check isn't there, or something, because a lot of the storylines today, they're just doing it for shock value, or maybe going viral on TikTok or something, because a lot of them don't have the gravitas that this story has. I mean, you got the correct build up. I mean, it really plays like a spy story with a layer of superhero kind of laid on top of it. This is really a kind of a gritty kind of a spy drama with Captain America mixing it up with the agents of Shield, specifically, like you said, Sharon Carter and Nick Fury. You got the tensions between
Right.
Captain America wanting to do it his way and kind of lone gunning it, but then also trying to work with Shield, and Shield trying to work with Captain America. And then there's that failed romance between Sharon and Captain America. You got everything kind of right for a really good. This kind of the artwork by Steve Epting is so realistic and gritty itself. It really plays like a movie. And at times I wish that maybe this was the movie as opposed to what we got. Even though the movie was good, like you said, it's your favorite. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know,
it's
the
yeah,
drama
yeah.
of the story is really baked into it. You really
It's
can
some
see it on the
it
screen.
it is a completely and I will be the first to acknowledge it is a completely different telling of the same story, or aspects of the same
Mhm.
story, the same broad concepts, and that's you touch on it right there. When comic books really work very well for me, at least for me, whether they be manga or whatever, I have a absolute love affair with certain kind of manga that I just love. That works. But when it is cinematic, it comes through on the page, and of course it's in the theater of the mind. But not just the theater of the mind, but you have like the whole as big as your mind can
Mhm.
imagine, which draws you in too. And again, it's a good balance of exposition and artwork, and the artwork is superb throughout.
Mhm.
I didn't have any complaints. It's its own style. You get used to it. I will say you do get used to it pretty quickly.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's kind of showing it on screen there for the audio listeners. It doesn't take long. And the other thing too, I like, obviously I'm kind of strolling through the first, 20, 10 pages or so of the first one here. But this one, you don't get a Captain America punching Hitler, and then the getting the Avengers fighting Ultron. You get a cold open in the desert, with this flashback, and then you kind of jump into it from there. But anyway, I like that, and that's a very
Mhm.
great how he was able to do that. If it had been any other person, who knows where they what we could have been cartoony as hell, and
Yeah,
and
or
forgettable.
as political as hell too. Yeah, you could
That's
have.
true. Yeah,
Yeah.
forgettable. Very, very, very. When you ground the story in the modern whatever is going on of that day, it doesn't have the lasting value of
Yeah.
not near like a timeless kind of
The
story like
Yeah,
that
it
we
doesn't
like. Yeah,
transcend, what you're yeah, a lot of stories that, that get lost to time, and, there's, like, certain writers, movies, shows that are so grounded and topical, for that time that, they lose their immediacy, almost instantly. After the first year it's out, we're on to the next thing. In this story, like you said, it's sort of timeless things. It's about longing for a friend that's dead, and the adventures of them coming back, and the whole emotional baggage that is. And there's no, like, it's not an overlay of what politically is happening at the time. There's not a
right.
punch at one side or the other. This can be read however you want, without it. And I don't. Any writer, any creative person can say what they want. They can say what they want on Twitter, X, Blue Sky, whatever.
Sure.
But that will color how you perceive that person. And if they also inflect it into what they write or do, you kind of push your reader off to either one side or the other, and to either to the better or the detriment. But when you write a story that's appealing to everybody, you bring everybody to the table, and I think that's a good thing. It gets everybody talking about the story as opposed to what alienates each other. So So yeah, I do appreciate a really good story. And um with Captain America, like I said, he was never that appealing to me. But then again, I never read him. Back in the day, when you're a kid, you have a limited budget and you just collect what appeals to you. And like I said, I instantly related to X-Men and Spider-Man, and I got into Fantastic Four. I really liked those core characters, but I didn't care for Iron Man. I didn't care for Captain
Right.
America. I didn't care for Thor. I thought Thor kind of looked kind of goofy. Iron Man just looked like a robot to me. I didn't really care about that. But the cool thing is, as you grow older, and you find out, hey, there are some cool stories with these guys. You got this wealth of comics that you were never exposed to that you can enjoy for the first time. And like I said, a lot of these stories are kind of ageless, and you can enjoy them. I've been going back, and I was never a big person into the Avengers, and I was reading Kurt Busiek's run with him and George Perez's run on the Avengers, which was highly entertaining, which we may cover in the future. But yeah, there's a wealth of comics that you may have kind of cut yourself off to when they first came around, but it's great to have them still here and you can go back and enjoy them. And this is one of those stories that just as fresh as it was that day. I kept kind of looking back as when was this written? Because it really feels of its time. And like I said, they could retell it as the movie Winter Soldier, and it be as good as it was even back then.
Yep. No, I agree. It is really, really good from the standpoint of it's not just Captain America. That would be boring, one dimensional. And there's a time and a place for that too. Don't get me wrong, but this is so much more sophisticated, right?
Hmm.
And you have the intrigue there, and it becomes a noir. That's another reason why I also fell in love with this too, because I really enjoy a good noir. If it's pulled off right, as occasionally we are want to do.
Hmm.
Once in a while, we'll pull those in. Yeah, and that's the other beautiful thing too that this illustrates as well. Okay, so there's different Captain America's different
Hmm.
decades. There's Silver Age, Golden Age, whatever, and that's what I like to do. Is at one point, this is a long time ago, I went back and I systematically like went through all of the Superman stories, the ones that I was already familiar with, and then the ones that I was not familiar with, or that I kind of made that list, and then you can kind of go through and get a very different everything from like a DC what if kind
Hmm.
of type thing, all the way out to like a Marvel solid heavy hitter like this. Which, by the way, it wasn't just in one year. That's the other thing too, which probably wouldn't be able to be do nowadays because there's just not the patience for there like this to go on like it did for multiple years. Like it wasn't just in one or two good quarters of the year. It was a really good time to be following it, and you were rewarded. And I think that's something that we're always looking for.
Yeah,
And it
mhm. But yeah,
yeah,
Ed Brubaker was on Captain America for a few years, and then yeah, I read ahead, and I'm
and I'm
on to
on
the
to the
next
next.
volume of his run on it. I'm almost done with it. I got like 5 issues left, but it's the next set. Death of the Dream is the next volume, and then I think there's a third volume epic that finishes out Ed Brubaker's run. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm becoming a
A
huge
huge
fan
fan
of
of
Ed Brubaker's writing. He's really good. He's got a new show coming out, adapting Amazon show adapting his uh noir pulp stories from Criminal. Yeah, you got it. Criminal, which
which
hopefully
hopefully
will
will.
cover in flipping the pages. So I think he's become one of our channel's darling as far as writers. So
absolutely. Yeah, we will absolutely cover it. Oh wow. Yeah, yeah. I did. I pulled that up in the background because I knew I had it in my show notes.
Mhm.
That hopefully would come up, and you did it masterfully. Yeah, this one is one to get into. You have to let it build and take its time, but you're not bored either. You're not like it's you're not. There's no dead ends here. There's just you, just a couple more pages, you
Mhm.
know, and then
And
you're
the art
rewarded.
the art is so dynamic. Just look at that, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say it didn't
Looks
even do it justice, yeah, but
yeah,
yeah.
looks beautiful.
Y
Yeah, Steve Eptington, really a great artist. I wasn't too familiar with him before this,
yeah.
reading this.
Um,
I don't know if he's still around or, is a artist, from today, but yeah, he really kind of captures, with Ed Brubaker's writing, there's probably just a handful of artists that really, can lock in on his writing and really pull out what he's laying down. And I think Steve is definitely one of those that can do that. Nowadays, Ed Brubaker's really got a partnership with Sean Phillips, that's been drawing with him with Criminal and his other projects. But this Steve Eptington really does kind of shines through on this as well.
you also get a completely different you're right about that. Well, I mean, obviously, it's the movie, I'm just gonna use that as a counterpoint to this, like,
Hmm.
its own counterpoints in the comic book, which are, like, whenever you see, like, a exposition or, I mean, flashback, it kinda serves to underline what's going on then and there in that scene or that situation, which it just again, it just another level of quality. When you peel it back, there's substantial, depth there, and again, you're right, I'm like, "Look at the art," and you see, like, how it could very easily be on a storyboard. Like, on the big screen. So we're very lucky to get what we got for, Captain America and all that. And, of course, I kinda the problem with the Marvel universe, if anything, is that, like, I mean, how many times are you gonna destroy how many times is the world gonna end? You know? You get to such a height to, like, where it's kind of like, well, my mega super ultra power will overpower your super ultra reality altering thing. And you kind of get numb a little bit to it, but which has certainly happened with me in the Marvel films. But I love how none of that. There's none of that. I love how when I do go into a comic book storyline, maybe I am familiar, maybe I'm not. I don't have that fatigue with it because it is a completely different experience because it's a different character. It's not the same, not the same. Which I like. I like that, and of course you could have both. Of course you can.
Yeah, yeah. Captain America is one of those interesting characters where he could be the street level character, like say Spider Man or Daredevil, but he also can get hold it own with Avengers and do more of the big cosmic, multiverse kind of storylines. He could be right there, but he's comfortable at either or, and this is more kind of a street level kind of story, espionage with Sleeper Cell of the Winter Soldier, just all of those really meaty storylines that you could do with a big crime spy story. It made me think of we just recently did a binge worthy on The Americans, which is a
Oh
big
yes,
spy story. So some of the storylines from this could easily kind of transfer over with that, but you also had the layer of the superhero in this. So you definitely have your superheroes. You got Falcon showing up. Falcon, before he becomes Captain America and everything gets kind of um it's interesting because like in the second volume there's a storyline where there's a thing about maybe getting another superhero to become Captain America, and the whole storyline is you can't really replace Captain America, but now
right,
you've got in today's thing, the thing is to make another one of the same thing and call it the same thing.
right.
Uh,
Xerox it and just
yeah,
cookie cutter it and drop it in
yeah,
place. Right.
yeah, yeah. It's Captain America, but he's such and such, and whatever flavor of the week, but yeah, so yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, this is a more of a you know of its time kind of thing of Captain America was Captain America, and yeah, it was kind of interesting. When you kill a character and bring it back, the whole trope and cliche in comic books is, if someone dies, wait a week, they'll come back,
Right.
um I was so jaded, when they killed off Superman. It was like, really? So I never read that story, but I've since heard it's actually a pretty decent storyline. So, if you want, we can revisit that and flipping the pages. But yeah, I think there's so much animosity to bringing back certain characters, that you really kind of have to win over the audience. And from what I could see, even though there was initial pushback with Bucky Barnes being brought back, it really, the storyline, the story itself was so overwhelmingly good and so overwhelmingly welcomed, that it's become kind of canon. And if you would ask the fans today whether or not, if they could just recon everything and take Bucky Barnes and let him be dead again, I think you would have a whole lot of pushback, even more so than back in the day when they were trying to bring you back. I think more people nowadays would want to keep that character because they've kind of created him into this very interesting sort of anti-hero that is
Right.
rich. Marvel's richer with having him in it.
Well,
And
it also and sorry, it also serves to really highlight and get to Steve. I mean, it gets to Steve to this is what the movie, the most recent one, the Winter Soldier, this is what it could not achieve because there's just a constraint on time. Whereas,
mhm,
like with this, like Bucky, he plays into Steve's guilt and he compromises him. I mean, I'm not, we're not getting into too many spoilers here, but
mhm.
there is a point like where that becomes like, he starts making mistakes because he needs to, he doesn't want to not be able to save Bucky again, like, but anyway, sorry, throw back to you. Sorry, I had
Oh
to jump in.
yeah, I will also say that he kind of fleshed out the relationship between Captain America and Bucky Barnes, and give it a little more weight to it. It's interesting that in this storyline, Captain America, which he always has been, the sort of like the patriot, the face of America. He just has a shield. You wouldn't see Captain America out on the field
Right.
shooting Nazi soldiers down. Whereas Bucky Barnes is a sidekick, but he's the one that does the dirty work. Even when they were together, he would go in, sneak in, and kill off the Nazis with his guns and whatnot. He did what Captain America couldn't. So there was that relationship there. And even though he was younger than Captain America, he wasn't, a really young teenager at the time when they were going in and doing all the dirty work in Nazi Germany. He was the guy that really got the dirty work done, you know and bolstered Captain America to be the hero that he needed to be. So there's that interesting dynamic between the two, and that sort of yin and yang, that kind of balanced each other out. And then when he lost Bucky, he lost that part of himself.
Right.
And I will say, I was reading about this on Wikipedia, and they said that Ed Brubaker was very much influenced by Jim Steranko's run on Captain America. And I haven't ever read any of Jim Steranko's work,
I
and I'm
Yeah,
looking
I read that
forward
his in
to.
his
Mhm,
his work in the '60s was
mhm.
fundamental for like Nick Fury, and that's kind of that's the
Yeah,
spy
yeah, and
ish feel for Marvel. Yeah,
I've got the collection of his work on Nick Fury and Shield, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. But I didn't realize he had written on Captain America, and I'm really looking forward to reading that as well.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think that will be one that we will probably as a potential candidate for future
Mhm.
flipping the pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, then that's it. Kind of goes back to Brubaker. He trusts you to think. He is
Hmm.
not. the themes are sophisticated, but they're not pretentious, and none of this stuff is pretentious. It's very ground level. Anybody can get into this. It's appealing. Again, it's not the stereotypical, Captain America, punching a
Mhm.
Nazi, not that there's
Mhm.
there's a time and a place for that, but this is a more soap opera, more serious uh,
Mhm.
swing at it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, very, very grounded story, very street level. So yeah, yeah. If you like the movie Winter Soldier and want to read the comic book it's based
You'll
off
love
of,
this.
you'll really enjoy it. I think. And then if you really enjoy it, you could go on to Civil War.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't hold. I mean, there's nothing that I have a holder side of the book on that one for my personal taste, but I just the Civil War kind of just didn't really hit with me. But that, I
Yeah,
mean,
it kind of gets
I
kind of
thought
broader, and yeah, maybe get a
I
little political.
well, it just did too much. That
Hmm.
like when they were starting to pack in, like that was when they had a mandatory pack in 5 extra superheroes.
Yeah.
Because it's the multiverse, and that's why it compromised the entertainment for the story, in my opinion.
Hmm.
And then plus it didn't last all that long either because you had one versus this. Anyway, but it worked out for what it did for what it needed to do anyway, which is make a lot of money. But if you're not intimidated by comic books, um, these DC Compact Comics, that's Thing, and then the
Marvel,
Marvel
yeah,
is the
yeah. Hmm.
premier. The Marvel version is the premier line. You're
Hmm.
not going to be disappointed because you don't have to think about it because it's already there. It's a very good storyline.
Yeah.
Excuse me, it's a good to a very, very good storyline, no
Yeah,
matter
it,
what.
yeah, either curates a graphic novel or a storyline, like you said. So yeah, it's sort of jump in, jump out. So yeah, if you're scared about Captain America runs for 500 issues, 600, 700. You don't have to start at the beginning. Like I said, you can, if this storyline sounds appealing to you, you could jump in, jump out. Yeah, yeah, there's many decades worth of stories that they can probably borrow from, but yeah, like I said, those compact and premiere, they're cheap. DC's like $10, the Marvel versions 15, and very compact, you like the size of a manga, and quick reads, very, very entertaining. So yeah, if you've always kind of been curious about comics, but we're, like you said, intimidated, easy way to digest them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think are we coming up on the caboose there,
I think
Tom?
so.
Or yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. I can't emphasize this enough. Just crack it, and start reading, and you're not going to be disappointed. And like Tom was saying, you will absolutely get sucked in, and there's a whole 8-year run of this to pick up on. You got the death that got to you got the coming back. You got the everything in between. You got the whole thing in a way that probably more people don't. I was gonna say too, another shout out too, since we're just dropping comic book, really good series, Secret Warriors by Jonathan Hickman and Brian Michael Bendis, which was a few years after this, from 9 to 2011. That's the one where Nick Fury does discovers that Hydra infiltrated Shield. It borrows parts of it from and it kind of shoves it in the movie. So like that. Anyway, that's like where I say they like borrow and steal where they want to, and as they should. But anyway, another good storyline which you can find there. But this is a strong recommend from me and Tom.
Mhm.